Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Champion Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello, welcome to the new warm-up. You've got myself, Matt Shaw, and Ian Kilroy here. There's no Brady Frost anymore, no Tom Bradshaw, no decent cartoons, and no dry humour. So, you've got your boys here. So what we're going to aim to do, we're going to aim to do a warm-up show which will fit a little bit more into the review show that we do. And this will be a bit of a shorter episode than what it's been in the past, just because it's going to come out towards the end of the week and it'll give you more time to listen if it's 15, 20 minutes or so. Okay, so let's start off, Killer. We've got Stevenage on the horizon this weekend. The first home game of the season. Very much looking forward to this one. What we usually do, or what we'll usually do at this point, is we'll look into the previous form of Stevenage or the opposition who we're going to be playing. But obviously, within the first home game of the season, they've only had one game.
Yeah, well, they've won though, so there's still quite a little bit to get into there, mightn't they? They took on Shrewsbury, I think it was this Saturday, wasn't it? I think that's where they were at.
Yep. They beat Shrewsbury 1-0, did Stevenage. So there's not a lot really to go on yet in terms of stats either. So what we'll do is we'll look into the statistics later on into the season, and we'll look at how they're likely to play. But looking at last season's form, so Stevenage have actually had two games. They lost 4-3 to Norwich yesterday, and to be fair, that's actually a really commendable performance against Norwich. As I said on our review show the other night, I'm not overly impressed with Norwich at the minute due to the way they handled the King. You just don't come at the King like that, Killer. You just don't. But we'll go back to their only game, which is Stevenage 1, Shrewsbury 0. They've had a lot more shots on goal than Shrewsbury, 13-4, 4 shots on target to 1. Possession quite low, 51% to 49, and there's a reason for that. The pass accuracy is 56%. And when your pass accuracy is 56%, Killer, there's a specific way you play, isn't there?
There's a very specific way you play, and I think we all know exactly what that's going to be this weekend, and it's going to be quite direct. I've been talking to Matt from the Stevenage podcast, who we have on here shortly, I think, with a little audio snippet, answering a few of our questions. They were very happy with the performance, and towards the end of the Town game against Peterborough, I obviously watched it at home on Sky Sports Plus. The coverage went off, but I could still watch the little bit of the Stevenage game, so I popped that on for a little bit, saw the highlights then at the end of the game. Stevenage should have won quite comfortably. I mean, they had loads of chances. Obviously, when you got Tyree Simpson up top, maybe it's a little bit to say why he's starting there, because obviously they're struggling for goals elsewhere. They did miss a penalty. It was never ever a penalty in a million years, but they should have won 2-0. But they've come away with a win against Shrewsbury, who I think on paper, Matt, they're going to be one of the weakest teams in League One. But you still have to go out there and win they have done. Now, they lost, obviously, Steve Evans as coach, haven't they, over if it was over the summer, where he's moved on to Rotherham. Obviously, at the end of last season, it might have even technically been the end of last season, even though there was only a game to go. But Stevenage last year finished 9th in the league, didn't they? And that was might be the highest they've ever finished. So talking to Matt,
they got in the playoffs when they got into the playoffs against Sheffield United, didn't they? When we beat Sheffield United, but the punch above their weight, I think, is the point you're trying to make there, aren't you? In terms of what they're doing, and they finished 9th last year, but they were very close at one point to the playoffs, and it was only when the Steve Evans to Rotherham rumours came about that they kind of dropped off a little bit towards the end. So they're absolutely no mugs. So if anybody's expecting Huddersfield to turn up, roll them over 3-4-0, it could happen, but it's more likely to not happen because Stevenage are not that bad a team, and you have to give due respect to Stevenage as a side here. So what's really interesting, so we've gone from, it's really one extreme to the other, isn't it, Peterborough to Stevenage? Because Peterborough are a team who try to play out from the back. We love a high press. That seems to be the way Michael Duff's going. When your opposition boot the ball long or chase it into the corners, then your high press has got less chance of working because, to be honest, they're not really interested in hanging on to the ball. So therefore, if they're going long immediately, then certain things change, don't they, in terms of the game? I'm looking at their team. They've got Piagiani at centre back, who's a centre back I'm very aware of. He's a very good centre back at this level, very good in the air as well. So he's going to be a problem when balls come into the box for us in both boxes. They've got Lewis Freestone at left back, who was a player we were linked with in the summer. In midfield, White, Thompson, Phillips played. I think the interesting one that we've got, apart from Tyree Simpson, is the midfielder Dan Kemp, who spent a little bit of time at MK Dons as well. He's quite creative, and he's scored quite a few goals at MK Dons, and he's coming into
last year, Matt.
Well.
Last year, Dan Kemp spent the first half of the season on loan at Swindon, and he scored 14 goals, I think, in 25 games for a midfielder, which is pretty incredible. And won Player of the Season for Swindon before he went back to MK Dons, and it didn't quite work out in the second half of the season for him. But very rarely will you have a guy that only spends between August and January at a club on loan and still wins Player of the Season. So he really is one we have to keep an eye on Saturday.
Shades of Jordan Rhodes when he went on loan, didn't he, to League Two? Was it Brentford he was on loan at for 6 months and he won Player of the Season? Something like that, wasn't it? They've got Tyree Simpson up front. We know all about Tyree Simpson. We know he's quick. We know he's strong. We know about his strengths. We know about his weaknesses. And then the one who scored the goal, they've got Elliot List, haven't they, who's a 27-year-old attacker. He's a winger, so I won't pretend to know a lot about him. But I just know that he scored the goal for them at the weekend, and Matt, who from the Stevenage podcast, was quite high on him as well. So they've got a team there which is quite well put together. It's going to be strong. It's going to be awkward to play against. So the question for us, Killer, is how are Huddersfield Town going to combat this? And I think we might be looking at one or two changes. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, don't worry about it. We will always explain brilliantly, as we always do. But if you are watching on YouTube, I am going to go to my screen and my diagram, and we're going to go back to the old tactics board. You know, everybody knows we love a good tactics board, don't we? So Stevenage line up in a 4-3-3. So I think what they'll be doing is they'll be lining up here in their very structured and rigid. For Piagiani, the left-sided centre-back is the one that we've been talking about. 3 in midfield who will work extremely hard off the ball and try and close Huddersfield Town down. Up front, you've got List playing on the left, Dan Kemp coming in onto his favoured left foot from the right, and then Tyree Simpson in the middle causing havoc with his power and pace and trying to make things awkward for us. So how are we going to combat that? So I think it goes without saying Lee Nichols will be in goal. I don't think we need to delay on that too much. Nichols is in form. Doesn't look like he's going to be sold anytime soon, so I think we'll have Nichols. I don't see too much change, to be honest, mate, with the back 3. I think Brodie Spencer will still line up as the left-sided centre-back. He just adds that pace in there. People who've listened know that I don't love Brodie as the left-sided centre-back as much as I do on the right-hand side, but he's doing a job there, isn't he, covering through for the left wing-back. In terms of the other centre-back here, we're going to have Mikael Helik, you would presume, barring any catastrophes. And I think Tom Lees has done enough to get the nod for the right centre-back over Matty Pearson, who did fine against Morecambe. So I think it'll be the same back 3. So what you'll get is you'll get Helik up against Tyree Simpson, and then you may get Brodie sort of covering in behind at times, looking just for if it breaks, and then Tom Lees can also challenge him as well. But you'll have Elliot List. They seem to cut in, don't they, the 2 wingers? So what you'll find is Town will go quite narrow, and I think that'll suit Town as well, being narrower, because that means Tom Lees can come more into the middle than out wide, and Brodie, that means he'll come in onto his favoured right side. So that should hopefully work out okay for us. In terms of wing-back, Sorensen's played quite a bit, hadn't he, in the last couple of games, but it's early on in the season, so I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. He should be fit to play. Left side, I think Jaheim Headley was fantastic against Morecambe, Killer, but I would presume that he'll still stick with Mikael Miller, because Mikael Miller didn't do anything wrong against Peterborough. Where it gets interesting, I presume that Wiles and Evans will maintain in midfield. I think the interesting selection, I think the only thing that we might question is going to be the defensive midfielder. In a game like this, when when your opposition are going long and Huddersfield are going to have a lot of the ball, you do ask the question, do we need Jonathan Hogg there as an extra protection? I mean, there may be moments where we do, because the ball will go long to Tyrese Simpson, and then it makes sense to sometimes have a front and back option on him there, and that's not something, say, a Herbie Kane would be able to do as well as Hoggy. Or it could be David Kasumu for his speed, and David Kasumu can drive with the ball forward as well to create that extra option. So there are options there. Will Hoggy play? I'm not sure. Do we need the extra insurance, or do we start with Hoggy and maybe change it earlier in the game than what you would do if things aren't going particularly right? Because Hoggy does allow the other two midfielders to push on as well. So there is that side. Herbie Kane, if we have a lot of the ball and we need to be patient, then Herbie Kane probably comes into that number 6 role as well, and he's your deep line playmaker trying to make things happen. So I think a lot of it depends on that. I would imagine that Hogg might start, Killer, but it may be that if we're not 1-2-0 up fairly early on, he may come off tactically in the game just to allow something else to happen.
I think Duff will stick with it because it worked last weekend. Personally, I'd probably, as you mentioned before, Matt, they don't really pass around at the back too much. So I think what's going to happen here is our wing-backs will have to play deeper. They played really high against Peterborough because we were pressing as they were trying to pass out from the back. Now, when Stevenage start going longer, our wing-backs have to be deeper. And if they're playing deeper, you're going to have 5 at the back effectively there. So I don't really think you need Johnny Hogg there as your defensive midfielder. Personally, I'd have Kane in. I'd have Herbie Kane. I'd have, exactly as we were, Kane in for Hogg, just because I imagine the wing-backs are going to have to play a little bit deeper. So that's how I'd go. But I don't think Duff will. I think he'll go with what worked the other day. However, if it's not working, that's the change I'd expect to see pretty early on in the second half if we're struggling to break Stevenage down.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think he'll start with Hogg because he played quite well, particularly in the second half. Hoggy played quite well. So I imagine that will be the system, and also Hoggy will come in wanting into that defensive area when the guys cut in from Stevenage out wide as well. So that'll be that. Up front, I think Reece Healy starts. I don't think there's an argument really for Reece Healy. He was rested midweek with this game in mind, I think. And then the only other question is would Callum Marshall start? I think probably not. I think Josh Koroma will continue. I think Josh Koroma triggers the press quite well up front. Although, like we said, that there will be very long ball Stevenage and not many opportunities to press. But I think when balls come into the box from wide, Josh Koroma is quite good at pouncing on the loose ball as well. So I think that's why Josh Koroma will play, because he can be a bit of a pest in and around the box when it becomes loose. And, if Town are putting crosses in from wide, then I'd imagine that Josh Koroma will be the second striker ready to pick something up a little deeper. So I think what we'd get is Healy making that run towards the keeper, and then Koroma maybe just hanging off a little bit for when the ball breaks and then score. So I think that's how we'll line up, Killer. Any changes to those two forwards, or would you go with that as well?
No, I thought Koroma looked sharp yesterday. I know he missed 2 chances against Morecambe and everyone's calling him out. We need another striker because of it. But he got there. He's at the post for one of them, and the other one he got on a defensive error, really. He should have made it, 4-0 at that point. To me, Koroma...
They always say the worry is when the chances aren't coming, aren't they? So the chances were coming for Koroma. So I'm sure, I was saying to someone earlier, he's one of those streaky players where you can imagine he'll get like 9 goals in 5 games at some point and then not score for 12. And it's just about using the alternatives when he's not quite on it, isn't it? But I think at the minute he feels quite on it. Koroma, his head seems in it. And I think he's playing, the first game in a bit, he's played quite well for me. So he continues. So, right. So that's how we think Town will line up. Let's hear from Matt Farley from the Stevenage FC podcast to see what he thinks will happen this weekend.
Hi, chaps. Matt Farley here from the Stevenage Football Club podcast. Just to answer the 4 questions. So look, we kicked off probably our biggest ever season on Saturday against Shrewsbury Town at home with a big 1-0 win. And we were over the moon with it. Not only did we need the win to take the pressure off Alex Ravel, who's, he's back in the hot seat again for, our biggest season. But we were really interested and excited to see kind of this team that we put together and how they got on, and they really proved that they are good enough for this level and can easily get to the mid-table. It was a fantastic performance, 1-0, should have been more, missed the penalty, and we were really, really happy with how dominant we were. So a massive win for us. Aims and objectives this season, very simply, is to stay in League One. And look, we want to get over that 50-point mark. We want to stay up in League One because we know that if we can stay up this season, we can stay up in pretty much every league in League One. But a lot of people have underestimated us and they haven't done their homework on our squad. They look at Alex Ravel and they think he's not good enough. But no one's really done their homework on our squad. We've put together a fantastic competitive squad in this division. So I believe that the team will not only stay up, that they'll be in the mid-table and could even potentially snag a top half finish in League One this season. To go along with that, the approach for Saturday, a really tough game against yourselves. And I think for us, it's, our first real big test. And we're very excited to see how we get on. I think that we'll look to be positive and dominate the game with the quality players that we've got in the final third. And I think we'll be a threat from set pieces. And I think we'll look to go at the game based on our opening two matches in League One and the League Cup respectively. In terms of a score prediction, look, it's going to be tough. We said in our podcast, one of the chaps said 1-1 the other day, and I'd bite your arm off for a point, but I'm the most positive Stevenage fan ever. I'm going a 1-0 win for us in the last 10 minutes. Elliot List to get the goal again. But hopefully you enjoyed these answers, and best of luck on Saturday.
Okay. So thank you very much for Matt there. I think that's a very fair summary. I think, as an away fan, you'd be worried, wouldn't you, if there wasn't a little element of hope? And that's what football's all about, isn't it? You hope that you can go somewhere and win, no matter how good you are or how bad you are or how good the opposition or bad the opposition. You travel in an expectancy, and before the game, there's always that little thing, isn't the way you win. I'd be disappointed if someone came on and said, "No, we're going to get battered this weekend." You'd be a little bit put out in a way, wouldn't you? But the bookies obviously have Town as favourite going into this one, as you would expect. It's Town at home, one of the favourites to win the league, or one of the top five. I think we're fourth favourites out of fifth favourite out to win the league. Wrexham are quite uniquely high, aren't they? And I think that's just because they're quite popular from the Disney Channel, aren't they? And a lot of people will be putting money on that just as an off chance. But in terms of betting, Town are the favourites. Doesn't necessarily mean we win, Killer. But what would you, in terms of a score, what do you reckon? What you're looking for this weekend in terms of how you think the game will play out?
I think if we get an early goal again, like we did against Morecambe, it's a very different game. But I think Stevenage are a team that they're gonna play front three, and with our slower centre backs we spoke about many times before, I think they will pose questions, especially with Tyree Simpson, who's they're expecting him to start at the weekend. He's going to throw his weight around a little bit and make it awkward for us at the back. I think we'll have more than enough, but I think it'll be tighter than most people reckon. They've got quite a good defence, Stevenage. They've got Charlie Goodin from Brentford. He's played a few games in the Premier League not that long ago.
Charlie Goodin, Charlie Goodin. He's a big guy as well. Yeah.
Well, that's it. So it's not going to be a walk in the park for us. I think we'll still win the game, and I'll go 2-1 Town, to be honest, on where I see the game going. But I think it'll be a bit of a tougher game, even than Peterborough away, because the expectations there on Town this weekend. Yeah. We've had an easy win yesterday, a comfortable win on Saturday. It's only Stevenage, as some fans will probably look at it. But you've got to remember, Matt, they finished 9th last year and they haven't lost many players. Okay, Alex Ravel, their coach, isn't the most revered, but they are a bona fide League One club that did well last year and have taken 3 players, I think, from Peterborough's squad from last season. They won't be a bad team. And they're like you say, listening to Matt, they're fancying a 1-0 draw or kind of frustrating us early doors and making it hard. And that's what I'm expecting to get. But it'll come down to whether we can break them down. And I still think we've got more than enough assets in that midfield to create chances. We've now got 4 strikers up top who can score. We've got players, but what might happen on Saturday is expectations from the fans might make the players a little bit nervous for us. I just sense that could happen. We'll have more than enough from them, though. I still think. I just think it'll be a little bit more of a tough situation than we've had in the first couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Good played against Norwich. He's not really had a lot of luck fitness-wise, has he, in the last couple of years? But I'd imagine him and Pierre Gianni would be very, very threatening from set pieces as well. And I think Dan Kemp's got a really good left foot, so that in-swinger from that side could be really dangerous for Stevenage. Thankfully, we've got Ellick and Lees, haven't we, in defence, who are equally as decent. So, but that I think will certainly be a route that Stevenage will be looking down, and they'll be looking to Tyrese Simpson and the other striker, is it Aper, isn't it, who plays up front to really sort of stretches and forces forward and win bits and pieces. It's just really interesting to see that we've gone from a team playing out from the back to a team that'll be a little bit more direct and physical, and it's a really good test for us to see where we're at as a team as well, to see sort of it's one extreme to the other, and I think this is going to be a really difficult test, and I think I'm going to go though for a 2-0 to Huddersfield. I do think they'll be very problematic for period Stevenage, and I think there might be elements of frustration in there for the fans at certain times when they realise Stevenage aren't there to be rolled over, and they're quite decent. But other than that, I think we should hopefully nick this one. 1-0 scores. I feel like Ben Wiles is on a bit of a roll at the minute, so I feel like Ben Wiles might capitalise again on this. And maybe there's a goal off the bench, maybe for Callum Marshall again, or somebody like that. Or maybe there's one for Karoma. Maybe it's start of his streak.
That's where I'd go. I'd be going Wilesy and Karoma for this one. And
maybe the Undertaker.
And Tyrese
Simpson can be the Undertaker to the Herbie Kane with the streak. Who knows?
There we go.
Yeah, wrestling jokes for you. That's it, really. We wanted to keep this quite brief, didn't we? Quite short. Not because Killer's wife's or giving him some death stares from the other side of the room, or mine's upstairs also huffing. But the reason is we want to make these quite short, just so that you've got time to consume it, rather than releasing them quite late in the week and then only having a day to listen to an hour's podcast or something before Saturday. So we're looking to release these a little bit later than Brady and Tom did, and therefore we think we might need to make them a little bit shorter for you so you can get it. But 18 minutes 55 up on my clock here. The last thing for us, Killer, in terms of the podcast, what we like to do is we are part of the talkSPORT network, and if talkSPORT have a decent sponsor, then sometimes we can get a little bit of money per month through. And when we do bring in money, we don't necessarily keep it. What we like to do is we like to sponsor things. We like to push that out to sort of different areas. In the past, we've donated money to the Welcome Centre, where the food banks in Huddersfield. And last season, we sponsored Beth Stanfield, the Huddersfield Town women's captain. I'm really delighted to say as well that we'll be sponsoring Beth again next season. I just feel it's very important to try and get behind as many different teams as possible. And we'll be hearing from Beth in a moment, but we'll also be hearing from her throughout the season as well, just to give us a little brief update here and there on how Huddersfield Town women are doing. And I've done a little season preview with her now, just a couple of questions, and I'll roll that in here.
Hi, Beth. It's great to have you back on the podcast, and we're delighted to be sponsoring you again this season. With the season starting this coming Sunday, can you let us all know how pre-season has gone for you guys, and what does it typically contain?
Hello, thank you. I really appreciate your guys' support, and yeah, just thanks for sponsoring me again for this season. Yeah, it's really appreciated, like I said. So yeah, pre-season has been good. It feels like it's flown by, to be honest, with the season coming up this weekend. Obviously, it consists of doing a lot of fitness work. We've done some different stuff this year. Like we've done quite a bit more of like team bonding kind of stuff. Like weaved into our fitness work. Like we've been to Scamandon, did like a team bonding evening, ran up the steps there, which was brutal. And then obviously just trying to get all the new players integrated and settled in well, which I think has gone really well this year. I think people are getting used to the way that we play, and they fitted in really nicely to the team and stuff. So yeah, it's been good. And I think we're all just dying to get playing some proper matches now. We had a couple of good results from our last couple of pre-season games, and you can see like people are starting to understand the systems. We're starting to gel a bit more. So yeah, I think it's been a good pre-season, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, just excited to get started now and get stuck into the season.
Thanks for that, Beth. It all sounds like a decent pre-season apart from the steps there. How has it been for you yourself? Because you missed a few games through injury last season. Are you all good to go for the new one?
Yeah, I ended up missing quite a few games last season. I think I was out from about the middle of September, and then my first game back was the first one back after Christmas in January. So I missed, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 games. That was really hard, period, because a lot of those games were kind of crucial matches, looking back on how the season ended and stuff. But also it's just rubbish being injured, and having to sit and watch and not being able to have an impact on the game, just not being around people as well, missing training, missing seeing everyone 2-3 times a week was hard as well. So yeah, I'm all good. Hopefully, my personal kind of aim for the season is to get through it without an injury, or at least without a big injury. Obviously, everyone kind of picks up knocks and stuff along the way, but yeah, I just want to stay injury-free. So, I've come through pre-season fine, been doing a bit of prehab, so it was a hamstring tear, my injury, so obviously I've got to keep on top of that throughout the season, make sure my strength's all there and stuff. So yeah, I'll be keeping on top of it, and yeah, hopefully we'll get through the season without a big injury like that again.
Certainly wish you the best of luck with that. I've done my hamstring before, and it is not a pleasant experience. Just going on to the team then, so you're in a new division next year. What are the expectations for the team? Are you looking to bounce back and get promotion at the first time?
Yeah, definitely. That's the main aim, is to win the league and get promoted back up to Tier 3. We probably feel a bit hard done by in terms of getting relegated. I think we're probably a better team than we showed last year, for various different reasons. But yeah, that's the ultimate main focus for us, is to try and win the league, and get back up there. Obviously, we want to try and do well in the cups as well. Obviously, we want to retain the county cup, and probably try and put a bit of an FA Cup run together as well. We have quite a good history of getting quite far in the FA Cup. But last year, I think we drew Burnley in the first round and we lost quite narrowly. So yeah, obviously main goal is to be promoted, and win the league, and then kind of extra bits that would be nice is to obviously retain the county cup and get a bit further in the FA Cup as well.
It sounds great, does that, Beth? Just the last one then. There's a lot of local teams in that division next year, isn't there? So is there any that really stand out for you that you can't wait to get on the pitch with?
Yeah, probably Leeds, to be honest. That'll be the big one, won't it? I think we know quite a lot of players there, and it's the first game of the season, so that should set up really nicely. Obviously, Donny Bells as well. That's usually our County Cup final as well, so it'll be good to kind of see them in the season as well. And then not as local, but obviously if you look at the results last season, it'd have to be Middlesbrough and Durham, because they were kind of up there challenging Hull for the title. So I guess they'll be the kind of ones we level ourselves against. Same with Fylde, coming down from the same division as us. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of good games in there. And plenty of local ones, like you said. So yeah, it should be a good year, hopefully.
Okay, that's great. It's nice to hear from Beth. That's actually the first time I've really spoken to her, is that Killer on there, and I'm really happy that we're sponsoring Beth over this next 12 months. I wish we could do more. I wish we could sponsor more. I wish we could sponsor an academy player as well, but there's only so much money, isn't there, that comes in, and we're not the richest. But it is nice, and if there's a lot of local games next season for Huddersfield Town Women. They start the season against Leeds. They'll be playing a lot of local teams. So if you want to get down there, Killer, you live in Huddersfield. You know how to get down to the Stafflex Arena, don't you?
Yeah, it's at Storsall. So it's obviously where the university is. They play at Stafflex. Stafflex Arena might be a little bit rich for it, but it's a good playing surface. And Town obviously used to train there. I remember going there once to see a behind closed doors friendly between Town and I think it was the American under-23s team. And we had, I think John Thorrington played for us and scored in that game, but it was a behind closed doors friendly. And there was about 1,000 people there at Stores Hall watching it before they made it into the nice little setup that it is now.
Yeah, it's really nice down there. It's a really nice. I love the viaduct and stuff down there. It's just really super cool in it and what have you down in the area. But yeah, so like I say, they'll be playing Sunday the 18th. They got Leeds coming up, and then the 25th they're playing Stockport County at home, and then Thursday the 29th in the Cup against Donny Rover Bells. So they're playing some really good local teams. Norton and Stockton, I'm not quite sure where they are. Fylde have come down, Middlesbrough, Barnsley, Durham, York City, Cheadle. So there's a lot of matches there which are quite good, quite local. So hopefully they should be able to get some good crowds in there. It's not that expensive to go watch them either. So if you get a chance on a Sunday, you're at a loose end, go down and get them, watch them back them as well. So thanks to Beth, and good luck to Huddersfield Town Women, and we'll be doing a little bit when the academy games kick off as well. We'll have an academy coordinator as well who'll be doing little things as well from there. So we'll be back in every. And if you call yourself Huddersfield Town, we will back you on this podcast no matter what the sport. We'll always wish you the best. So, Killer, that's it. A nice short one. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back. So keep an eye out and an ear out for the new post-match recovery show, which Jay and Joel will be doing from this Saturday. The boys are just going to find their groove with that before I think it'll open up into something pretty good, in all honesty. And then we'll be back with the review show either Monday or Tuesday. It'll hopefully be a little bit shorter than the 2-hour watch along we did this week, Killer. We're not going to try and do that every week. Someone very pleasantly in the YouTube comments section described it as diarrhea. So very thanks for that. It's very, very nice to be back with receiving such lovely feedback. We did actually get a couple of nice comments in there. It was just the one bad one, but don't focus on the bad, dear. What was it in Happy Gilmore? Harness the good, push out the bad. That's it, wasn't it? So I'm glad that you've listened. Thank you very much, and catch the guys from Saturday.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.